Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Byrne, and I will be your host for this afternoon's webinar. And welcome to the session wherever you are around the world. Today's session is around increased safety for senior living, and what we'll do is we'll move on to the agenda. So today's agenda, we'll talk a little bit about technology and where we've come from and why we're invested in this technology, around AiRISTA Flow and the developments of AiRISTA Flow over the years. We'll move into what we're talking about today, which is around patient assistance issues and how we can help with the AiRISTA Flow product set. Then we'll talk a little about wandering use cases and how that affects the senior living and senior patients. We'll go into some of the technology around the tags, and then we'll jump into the UVS platform, which is AiRISTA Flow's universal visibility solution platform. And then we'll talk some more on different topics around the use cases around different areas that we can use the UVS solutions for. And at the end, we'll take some Q&A. All up, we should be around about 30 to 35 minutes today. And please note that the session is interactive. So if you'd like to ask some questions, please feel free that the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen is to enter those at any time, and we'll answer those at the end of the session. If we do run out of time and we don't have an ability to answer all the questions, we will provide the answers to you directly. Please note also this is being recorded, so if you'd like to share this recording with any of your colleagues afterwards, or you'd like a copy for yourself to listen again, please feel free to download it when we send you the information. All right, fantastic. So we'll get into a little bit about technology. So we were founded in Perth in 1999, and for those that are good at math, that'll make us in our 20th year of operation, which is a significant milestone in today's business world. We have offices in Sydney and Melbourne, headquartered on the Gold Coast in Australia, and our Southeast Asia headquarters is Manila, Philippines. And in those locations, we have approximately 30-odd staff working in different parts of the business. Over the last, probably more than 10 years of our existence, we've been focusing a lot around the evolution of wireless technology, specifically Wi-Fi, focusing then heavily into the RTLS, real-time location services business, and then now into some of the new technologies that are emerging, such around as BLE. We've also got things like wayfinding. We've got surgical scanning in hospitals, and a number of different other technologies that are rapidly becoming deployed throughout, not only in the healthcare industry, but in lots of different industries such as mining and manufacturing and industrial areas. One of the benefits that we've had over the years is that we've been able to give back to our partners, and that's the true business of what we are today and what we have been for the last 20 years is around value-added distribution. And the true value is in what we can do not only from providing a product, but the additional services that we provide around that. From basically looking at predictive and post-deployment site surveys, around technology introduction workshops, technical assessments and tender development, answering tenders and providing solutions for our partners for ultimately their customers. Our ability to be able to provide these services has given us an insight into these technologies and made us a very, very, very what I would call a relevant solution provider in today's world in relation to healthcare delivery services. For today's business, we're going to have Armin Vardanian, who is our Chief Technical Officer for technology distribution, who's going to present today's solution. Armin has extensive experience in the Wi-Fi industry, and specifically more so in the last several years around real-time location services. So without any further ado, I'll hand it to you, Armin.
Thank you very much, Jason. So a little bit about AiRISTA Flow, who's the vendor we're talking about today when we're talking about RTLS and location services solutions. AiRISTA's been around for quite some time, since 2008, and they've covered a wide variety of different markets, including healthcare, which is obviously the core topic today, but also other markets as well, like aerospace, oil and gas, and federal systems as well, and out of the US. Obviously, being a US company, they've got solutions worldwide, and what's interesting is the level of variety in the solutions where you can find AiRISTA's location services. And it's also the different technologies that AiRISTA has a lot of experience in. We're talking about passive and active RFID, GPS solutions, Bluetooth, BLE, Wi-Fi, and other technologies as well. With the recent acquisition of the last couple of years of the Ekahau location services assets, AiRISTA has been very focused on building a full single platform to deliver a lot of services that can be provided, and people have been leveraging both the Ekahau and the AiRISTA assets on. And we're expecting in this year to have a major release of UVS, where we're combining the two product streams from the two different vendors. And you'll see in today's presentation that there's a combination of factors that we've taken the strengths from both solution streams to provide a really well-developed holistic solution. Obviously, having full 802.11n support, having continual tag involvement and development is something that's a key strength with AiRISTA. And Gartner sees that as well. As you can see on this next slide here, we're one of the leading challenges in the indoor location systems basis. Now, when we talk about indoor locations, we're sometimes talking, people will call it RTLS, real-time location, or indoor positioning systems. But fundamentally, whatever you call it, AiRISTA Flow is extremely well positioned to deliver a solution that meets the needs of the workflow to leverage location services. As a vendor-neutral company, we're very effective in terms of partnering with the likes of Cisco and HP and Aruba and others around delivering a Wi-Fi based and other technology solution, and with BLE as well. So regardless of what technology or what vendor you want to have, AiRISTA is likely to be able to deliver a solution for you. So today we're going to talk about patient monitoring and assistance. And obviously it's about senior living. It's a key focus of this, but certainly any kind of wandering patient is a real concern in a wide variety of healthcare environments. And we're talking about scenarios which cover not just hospitals, but also aged care facilities and high care facilities, as well as potentially any kind of recuperation or rehabilitation facilities as well. Now, the most devastating problem with dementia is a loss of control and a loss of memory, and people often forgetting where they are and where they're going and what they were doing. And so wandering patients is a natural outflow of that kind of forgetfulness. When you've got other conditions as well, Alzheimer's, claustrophobia, there can be a compulsion to not stay in the place where they can be cared for the most. And certainly be able to manage that kind of compulsion is a key element that location services can really advance the workflows in. But there's other solutions and problems as well. So there's patient fall awareness. So if someone has fallen and needs help, regardless of where they are, it's something that a wandering or patient assistance solution can provide a workflow solution for. Going off premise to have a smoke, so that patient elopement, if someone doesn't actually want to hang around, sometimes that can help as well in terms of knowing when that's going to happen, or at least identifying which way they went, which can be a big problem if they're not being closely monitored or they're actively avoiding visual monitoring. Be able to track them in a discrete manner without necessarily creating aggravation can be a really useful tool in terms of managing the care plan for that individual. The same goes for things like anxiety grief response. When you have concerns about patients who may be unexpectedly having critical situations, or patient, obviously, other kinds of patient elopement, having a mobile, portable, patient-worn solution can really advance the ability to deliver effective patient care. On the flip side of that, you've also got things like lack of supervision. Obviously, in aged care facilities, staff to patient ratios, staff to resident ratios are a real concern in today's environment. Be able to optimize your staff to be able to deliver a higher standard of care without necessarily having to increase your staff beyond sustainable levels is a key element that senior living solutions around patient monitoring assistance can really, really assist. Now, how do we manage and implement these kinds of location services? What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about being able to, know where a patient is, but also knowing when a patient actually needs assistance. And those can be under two scenarios. One is they're in the wrong location, the wrong point at the wrong time. And the other is when they're in a location, but they need assistance and no one's physically able to be made aware of that, either visually or audibly. Now, with departure detection, near door notification, the AiRISTA Flow solution you can implement Bluetooth-based door sensors, which allows you to detect when a wandering patient is about to leave the facility, also in addition to when they've left. If someone is kind enough to open the door for them, which is a very common thing, as you can see here, lots of kind old ladies, people tend to have a soft heart without realizing that there's a reason they're behind a locked door, because they can't necessarily take care of themselves in the wider world. You've also got other situations where if someone falls, as an example, they often, if they're elderly, they will injure themselves to the point where they may not be able to reach a wall point nurse call button. So be able to have a button which is worn by the person at all times can really increase the confidence the person has that someone will come, but also the reliability of that response and the speed of that response. Again, improving patient care and reducing the negative outcomes. Be able to notify external systems as well. So not just knowing, it's what are you going to do with that information? And the UVS solution for patient monitoring is complete in that respect as well. We've got external system notifications. So if you wanted to trigger a relay or trigger a door, you can do that. And so you can have that magical system of, well, one person can open a door and another one can't, all based on that proximity-based location notification. You can also do alarm and security system integration, including nurse calls as well. So if you have existing patient workflows around staff safety, duress, asset tracking, or those kinds of elements, and you've got notifications that are continually happening to staff, you can integrate your patient monitoring systems into those notification systems and provide a uniformity, which means your overhead on training, your overhead on understanding, and the likelihood that the system is going to be successful is increased. There's other elements as well. Quick view, so be able to take a snapshot and saying, well, do I know it's 10 a.m.? Do you know where your residents are? It's that whole, to be able to answer that question in a simple quick view is a really strong, powerful tool that UVS provides. To be able to not have to worry about doing head counts per se, be able to say, well, I know where they are, and therefore be able to assist most efficiently as possible, can really provide staff with efficient ways of managing their time, both with a graphical and with an operational level. And part of that management and notification, also having mobile alerts on a mobile interface, as well as being able to integrate with other UVS solutions like the B4 messaging. As I mentioned with staff safety, you can have 2-way messaging. You can have those acknowledgements and saying, okay, well, yes, a nurse will be in attendance, and you know exactly who's heard it, who's acknowledged, and what kind of performance criteria that you can set against that. So the key benefits there are quite significant if you can introduce a location-based service into your senior living arrangements. You can obviously improve your workflows, not just on your patient management in terms of being able to make sure that they get enough social time, get out of their rooms as an example, but also making sure your staff are in attendance in appropriate intervals as an example. You can also do real-time monitoring and immediate notifications. So if there is an acute event, that the patients and the residents have a way of asking for assistance. And the capabilities of a mobile button that someone can wear is so powerful that we've seen 90% swap when we're talking between buttons that are held by a person compared to buttons on a wall. It's just so much easier to use a button that someone can carry around on their wrist or around their neck for increased staff assistance requests. And that helps protect patients from injury. By doing that, you can say, okay, well, instead of having to wait and forcing someone to get out of their chair when they're clearly incapable of doing so and triggering a fall event, you can have them ask for nurse call in the comfort of their chairs and wait and have the confidence that someone will actually come to respond, which gives a lot of freedom to patients and residents. So when you're talking about aged care, freedom and control is a big influencer in the welfare component of their psychological state. So you can integrate into security management systems as well, talking about late night scenarios, or if there are critical events that security needs to attend to, you can integrate those workflows with a minimum of fuss as well. So you can have very transparent situations where you're not aggravating the situation by creating all these alerts. You can have them very silent alerts and very simple and manageable responses, which can help obviously avoid lawsuits and loss of reputation as well. If that classic scenario of my grandmother's gone missing, where is she? Well, no one wants to have that on their plate. So be able to implement this kind of patient care system where you can know where they are and be able to deal with them effectively can really avoid the problems that come with loss of reputation. And the fundamental core here is improving the service of care for a patient, whether it's in an aged care facility or in a hospital, whether it's acute care or longer term care. There are real benefits in the longer term for improving patient care. So let's talk about how we achieve this kind of location-based senior living arrangement assistance. So one example here is the AiRISTA W4 tag. It's a Wi-Fi based, can also be BLE or Bluetooth based tag. The tag is secure, but works basically like a watch with a simple button on the top. You can see the blue ring there. And it's waterproof as well. And that's a key request we found with most organizations looking for this kind of solution is, can we use it in the shower? The answer in this one is yes, you can. Which means that if someone has a slip and fall in the bathroom, they'll be able to call for assistance. And we'll also be able to know where they are to make sure that we go to the right location and we're not wasting time searching for a resident that is clearly unable to physically respond. We've also got the ability to do rechargeable. So depending on the interval rates of notifications and the movements, you can have several weeks worth of lifespan out of these, so reducing the overall management and maintenance of the systems. You can also, they come with multi-charger base. You can charge them en masse. You can have, and they're cost effective enough. You can have spares on hand for those instances where you need to replace them at short notice. Another example of a tag here, this one's a particularly good one for dementia patients, because what we found and the feedback we got with the W4 is that they like to press the buttons. Go, ooh, a button, I wonder what that one does. Ooh, a button, I wonder what that one does. And obviously you can understand the implications there. Without trying to make too light of that, one of the key concerns there is obviously reducing the awareness and reducing the risk of them actively trying to remove the actual location device itself. The T4 winglet can be used with a patient strap or something that can't be easily cut or removed, and has a long life replaceable battery as well, which is perfectly well suited to aged care scenarios or wandering patients where they are not necessarily in acute care, but do need to be monitored on a regular basis. Again, with Bluetooth capability, you can have Bluetooth choke point detection, so you can know exactly when they're going to approach a door. And also it allows you to have alert notifications. If they're going down a corridor and they're about to abscond, you can politely notify the nearest nurse, because you'll know where they are as well, to ask to kindly retrieve that patient. You can do that in a way which is non-confrontational, non-aggressive, because you know where they are and you know where they're going. Tactile button is still available there, so if you do need to call for assistance, that option is still available to T4. A bit about the Bluetooth infrastructure. So it's possible to use third-party beacons with the AiRISTA UVS solution to do choke point detection. However, we also offer our own solutions around BLE in terms of locators and infrastructure to provide a complete system that you can build upon as well. You've got wall pluggable, battery powered, as well as fully integrated options to do close range zone detection and alerting. So let's take a look at a little bit of the use case and see how UVS actually implements the solution to the wandering patient problem. So obviously we've got, if you get wanderers who can wander outside or they get lost inside of hospitals, because everyone knows hospitals can be quite Byzantine. I can only imagine how frustrating it must be for someone with reduced capacities to be able to navigate their way through. And certainly no one wants their loved ones to have the experience of frustration or concern when they feel lost in an environment that you're supposed to be caring for them. So the example here of someone leaving a building, missing meds or those kind of concerns can have a real impact on the overall care of a patient. The solution here is obviously UVS with those wandering patient tags. We can strap a tag to a person in a way that was just like any other medical equipment with a patient band, and they don't have to interact with it at all. It can be anonymous if you wanted to. You can link it to a room, or you can link it to a generic patient ID. So it's not Mrs. Jones has left the building, but patient one in room 123 has left the building. So there's a lot of privacy that can be well managed within the UVS solution, which also reduces the overhead for management when it comes to staff. Now, these alerts, if a tag reaches a threshold zone, which will be set up with Bluetooth infrastructure, then a nurse can be alerted to say, oh, this patient from room 123 is at the front door, is it about to exit? So please collect them and guide them back to their ward. Now that involves a number of different areas. It's knowing where the patient is, and using a combination of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, we can get very good location accuracy. And the other is the notification side, the messaging side as well. And that's making sure that we have a notification system in place, for example, with the B4 tags, which are staff tags with messaging capabilities, that we assign to our staff who are expected to respond to these kinds of incidents. And we can do location-specific rules. So if you have a very large facility, if you're on one side of the building, there's no point notifying a nurse who's a 10-minute walk away. What you want to do is notify the first responsible nurse that's closest to it. So that kind of location-specific rules are a key strength of the UVS location service solution. You're able to do escalated alerting. Those elements are really powerful. So let's talk a little bit more about how UVS and the platform that we're delivering this solution on. So the UVS platform can support not just Wi-Fi and BLE tags that AiRISTA supplies, but also passive RFID solutions as well as GPS as well. And so you can actually link multiple technologies to a single person. So if you do have concerns about those people who may need to wander off-site, you can supply them with a GPS tag and an on-premises Wi-Fi tag and get the best of both worlds within a single platform. You can also do third-party integrations with nurse call systems and security systems and BMS systems as well in order to interact with the environment when the conditions are right, locking facilities down, turning on cameras, making notifications and so on and so forth. So that data collection system as a single platform is extraordinarily powerful and enables lots of cool features and functions. We'll highlight some of the elements here. Obviously, real-time monitoring when you have a map, and you can have both single and multi-map views. So if you have a large facility with lots of different floors or lots of different, or even multiple sites, if you have people traveling between them, you can track them all through the single UBS platform. So again, the strength there is in a single platform to deliver lots of functionality across different environments. So you can track your staff, track your patients, and make sure you've got your right staff to patient ratios, as well as making sure that your patients are being attended to. And you can look at the history of that, as well as look at all the other reports that you can get from collecting that data on a single platform. So UBS platform is certainly enterprise grade for that purpose. It's got a nice web-friendly interface, it's got mobile interfaces as well, and also supports the ability to do data mining, trend analysis. So if you've got someone who keeps escaping, you can find out how they're actually getting out, as an example. So you can do corrective as well as preventative reports and maintenance processes. It's got true business intelligence and interactive dashboards as well. And so you can look at all the different statistics from a stakeholder point of view, not just from a staff point of view. And this can happen not just at a bed level if you wanted to. You can find out if someone has fallen out, or if someone is moving around, or if someone is asking for nurse call. You can find out where it's happening most frequently. And you can get these reports and information up to a multi-campus level. There's lots of flexibility in terms of the levels that you can report on. And all you need is a basic Wi-Fi infrastructure with those door exit points with PLE. So the hardware infrastructure you need for this kind of solution is pretty straightforward. Now, the example here you can see on screen is an example of hand hygiene, which you can integrate into your patient care just as easily with using BLE. And all you need is a Wi-Fi network, but you can also add other solutions as well. Once you implement your patient care system and patient location, it's very easy to start tracking assets, start tracking your staff, and making sure that you can provide a staff duress system all on the same infrastructure, same Wi-Fi and same PLE. So there's a lot of overlap, a lot of reduction in total cost of ownership that comes with sharing these technologies. You can also link other elements like passive RFID if you want to look at bed management, sheets management, so those kinds of things that can all be integrated into the same system. And if you're a large organization and you have lots of different sites, you can have redundant systems. So you can make sure that if people travel between sites, or if you've got centralized infrastructure, you can deliver UBS as a single platform, which obviously gives uniformity and again a lower total cost of ownership. There are other use cases as well that we can talk about as well. They're the subject of other webinars. Before we get to the Q&A, staff safety is a real concern, and it's no different when it comes to dealing with whether it's psychiatric issues or whether it's dementia, with aged care. There can be serious issues around making sure that staff get assistance when they need it. That's not always about duress. Sometimes it's about if an elderly person needs two people to lift them up out of a chair, you need to have an easy way of calling for help without having people walking up and down your facility to try and look for someone else to help them, which is a common issue around workflow management. So being able to implement staff safety is a key benefit to having a patient system as well. So you can combine the solution to serve both purposes, increasing your efficiency overall. Asset utilization inventory management is also a key issue in both aged care and healthcare facilities, which was the topic of another presentation we've got as well. So various departments will have their own equipment. They'll often see lots of different alcoves stashed with beds, stashed with tools and IV pumps and all sorts of other things. Being able to track them effectively can really increase your cost savings. And so looking at that in the context of additional solutions you can layer on top of the same system you're using for patient care can be really useful. And hand hygiene compliance is the last example here I've got, or the second I should say. Hand hygiene is all about keeping the environment clean. And what we're seeing in today's aged care and healthcare facilities is that hand hygiene compliance has significant room for improvement. So be able to add some technology to notify, to make sure that there is some positive encouragement and reinforcement of hand hygiene compliance rules, as well as being able to monitor and manage compliance of those rules as a really powerful enhancement that you can add in a similar fashion to patient care. Just with existing Wi-Fi network, along with BLE attached to hand hygiene dispensers, and 100 units is a very easy way of expanding out the solution. Now, patient safety, obviously, as we talked about, it's just one of the many solutions we can manage. Patient slips and falls, or patient trips. It's not always possible to have fixed solutions for that, and particularly for the elderly in aged care, they can't always reach those buttons on the walls. It's a really big issue. Okay, let's take a look at the questions. Jason, what kind of thinking have we elicited from our listeners today?
Thanks, Armin. We've got a few, and I'm going to combine a couple because they're very similar. You've mentioned GPS, Wi-Fi, and BLE throughout the presentation. Can you give an example of how you could combine this technology to get accuracy?
Certainly. So GPS is known for not working well indoors. So certainly Wi-Fi as the base platform for most indoor location solutions is the recommended approach. However, Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily have the level of accuracy you need to deliver an effective patient management solution. So what we use is we use Bluetooth or BLE, often called BLE, at particular entry and exit points to wards. Generally speaking, we're less concerned about knowing exactly which room a patient is in and making sure they're in an environment where they can be cared for, so they're inside and outside the ward. So ward level exits and rules are very easy to implement with a combination of general Wi-Fi and BLE. Now, GPS as an enhancement there can be used for those patients or residents that are allowed to leave the premises that may still need monitoring. And we can use third-party GPS tools which may have mobile backhaul, mobile connectivity, and we're seeing significant development in those kinds of solutions. Be able to integrate them into the UVS platform, which UVS supports, allows you to say, okay, well, this is where they were from a GPS point of view, and this is where they are from an indoor point of view, all in a single view. So the screens we have within the UVS dashboard system are very powerful for that purpose.
Thanks, Armin. That also probably leads into a question about zoning and geolocation. How does that work with the AiRISTA Flow solution?
So the AiRISTA Flow solution can provide very granular zones, and the Bluetooth capability that we can add to that allows us to have zones as small as a doorway. A single doorway. It could be open or shut with or without a door itself. And so the power of BLE really brings in that high granularity of location. We often talk about bed level location. So if you are concerned about knowing which bed in a multi-bed room someone's asking for help from, you can implement that with the AiRISTA solution. And so zoning wise, you can also have very broad zones. You can say, are they in the ward or out the ward? And you can set different rules and different workflows based on different conditions like that.
Thanks, Armin. What are some of the tools you use to be able to deliver these zones or geolocations?
So the key thing is to first assess your wireless network. So if you've got any black spots or those kinds of issues, tools such as IBWave can really help in terms of making sure that your network, your Wi-Fi network, is ready for your patient monitoring system. In addition to that, also having some expert services, and part of what we offer and our partner network can offer around good wireless in terms of making it better, you want to go through a formal process with that, going through a formal review. And once you've done that, AiRISTA provides their own tools around calibration and obviously zone management to help you define your environment based on your requirements. So having larger zones, small zones, as I mentioned before.
Thanks, Armin. Now this is a slightly different one. How does tag-based solutions differ from pressure or sensor-based solutions?
When we talk about fall prevention, we see a lot of different solutions, particularly in aged care, that are being in use today. We see bed pressure sensors, floor mat sensors. The biggest challenge with those is that obviously they're very fixed in their location. They're often attached to physical infrastructure, and they can sometimes be prone to failure, particularly when beds get moved into different locations. There's often reorganization of these environments. The benefits of having motion sensing and fall detection in a wearable tag is primarily that we can trigger falls and motion alerts anywhere where the patient is. So where if they're sitting in a chair or getting out of a chair where there may not be a bed mat there, if they're in the shower with the waterproof tag, if they're in the common area or even outdoors in the courtyards. Wherever they are, we can ensure that as long as we have coverage on the wireless network, we can have someone alerted to where they are and what's happened.
Thanks, Armin. That's about all the questions we have for today. If anyone else has got anything else they'd like to add, we'll just give another 10, 15 seconds. But I'm a very comprehensive coverage of this particular topic for today. Thank you very much for what you've done and delivered. As I mentioned earlier, this has been recorded and will be sent to you via an email in the next 24 to 48 hours. If you'd like to share that recording, please do so. We'd like, obviously, as many people to get coverage of these topics as we can as we go through them over the course of the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much for attending this afternoon or this evening or this morning, wherever you are located, and we look forward to seeing you on the next call. Thanks again. Thank you, Armin.